Welcome back to the SFL Rookie Draft. The last 20 selections will be made tonight with many eyes on the DC Dragons, who have 12 of those selections. Who will make memories and begin a Hall of Fame career? Tonight, we start with Florida. You're on the clock. Now to our panel led by tonight's host of Axis Live, Dave Axis. I'll see you soon and can't wait to call your name.
Party people of the SFL, welcome to the glorious third and final round of the Season 16 SFL Rookie Draft. I'm your host, Dave Axis, and we all know the third round is where the party's at, and that's why we have the largest panel of the entire draft weekend. Let me start introducing first the owner of Arizona, the Arizona Scorpions, the Hall of Famer, Mr. Arizona Everything in the top center of your screen, Mr. Eddie Gage. Eddie, what up, though? Nope, you're muted, bro. Ooh, I got one in already. Look at that. What do you know?
What up, though? How you doing, Dave?
I'm doing good. Thanks for you probably did that on purpose just for me so I could get one in. Hey, also in the top right-hand corner of your screen, the number one overall pick of this season's draft and the host of his own new talk show, NETMA, Mr. Tyler Falk is in the house. Tyler, what's going on with you?
Hey, Dave, I'm having a fantastic evening. It's round 3, and I'm ready to go.
Awesome. Glad to have you. Also with us, a rookie just last season drafted in season 15, wide receiver and general manager of the St. Louis Gladiators, Eagle Mondavi's here. Eagle, how you doing?
I'm fantastic, Dave. It's, nice to have a relaxed night tonight, not stressed about players, being taken.
Exactly. Also with us tonight in the bottom center of your screen, the vice president of the Fort Worth Toros, our rival, Mr. Robert Garrett Jr. Robert, how you doing tonight, bro?
Oh, Dave, I'm doing awesome tonight. It's exciting to see where all these rookies are going to end up. And like Eagle said, I'm excited to have a break after the last couple nights.
I bet. And last, certainly not least, the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, the owner of the glorious Lone Star Glory, but without a robe tonight for some reason. He's replaced it with a Davy Crockett hat, Mr. Charles Doherty. Charles, what is going on?
Oh, man, the robe was sent to the SFL Hall of Fame. So I will never be wearing that robe again, but it's great to be here. It's a glorious night. Can't wait to see who these teams pick. It's like
awesome.
Christmas.
Awesome. I think we're all thankful you won't be wearing that robe again. All right. So I know Florida is on the clock. Eddie, let me start with you first. They don't have a lot of needs. They only have one pick tonight. Where do you think Florida goes with this?
There's a lot of speculation about them drafting a linebacker, but they lost Optimus Klein. He's an owner now. He was their top receiver. They have 3 receivers, but they had 4 last season. So I'm just going to make a stab at it and say they go with a 4th wide receiver.
Really? Okay. That's an interesting pick. Tyler, what about you? Where do you think Florida goes to kick things off tonight?
Well, if they go a 4th wide receiver, I see him maybe taking up Kyle Fenimore or Nate Ritters from Albuquerque. Both had a phenomenal season, and both were in that championship game in which Albuquerque did come up winning. But I see them going with a linebacker. I see him probably either taking Casey Husky or Ryan Ray, in my opinion.
Okay. Speaking of wide receivers, Eagle, what do you think about what Eddie just said about Florida drafting another wide receiver?
See, I think Florida's going to go defensive side of the ball. Yeah, Florida, they definitely ran the 4 wide receivers last year, but I'm actually looking defensive tackle with this pick for Florida.
That's interesting. So we know, Robert, not a lot of defensive linemen left in the rookie draft. There are only a few left, but several teams still need a defensive lineman. Does Florida go defensive line here and put a hurt on other teams?
I'm looking at the roster that Florida's built so far. They have 3 defensive linemen right now, only 2 linebackers. I think I agree with Tyler here. I feel like they're going to look at getting a 3rd linebacker and try to shore up the middle of the field to stop the run game.
Okay. Lastly, let me hit Charles real quick because it looks like the pick is in. Charles, do you agree with Eddie Gage? Or do you agree with Eagle and Robert?
It's I don't like arguing with Eddie Gage because he's a tooth chipper, but Ryan Ray is going to be my pick on this one, and the reason why is, I mean, he's out of the remaining linebackers out there, he's got the best tackle rating and the best run coverage rating. So it's basically a plug-in linebacker. He's going to go out there and he's going to contribute immediately.
Awesome. Okay. Well, let's kick it back to Cam since the pick is in. Cam?
Thanks, Dave. With the 49th pick in the SFL Season 16 rookie draft, the Florida Storm select Charlie Beletsky, running back. San Diego is on the clock with the 50th pick.
Wow. All right, Tyler, you had the biggest reaction. What do you think? Did that just shock the SFL world or what?
Just a little bit, because we know that running backs, only one team really needed a running back, and that was DC. That was the one team that I think everybody foresaw taking another running back. But for Charlie Beletsky to get a spot on Florida, that's huge. Means they're going to be moving to more of a conservative game plan, maybe two running back sets and more of a shotgun or a split back look. So look for Florida to be more balanced this year and move away from Ron Cochran throwing the ball so much.
Yeah, Eagle, let me ask you the same question. I mean, shockwaves sent throughout the SFL world right now with Florida drafting another running back. Nobody saw that coming.
Yeah, my look on the playback when I watch it's going to be interesting, to be honest. But no, I mean, it kind of makes a little bit of sense. It just depends on after the season, is Doyle going back to fullback? Does the league move to a 2 running back requirement for teams? So maybe they're building for the future with this pick. But yeah, so I'm shocked a little bit with this pick.
Yeah, I am too. Speaking of the 2 running back system, Charles, does that surprise you, and does that give you any thoughts for the future?
Well, it's definitely eye-opening when you see DC and Florida go with 2 running backs. So they definitely know something. They sim probably more than any of us. So maybe they're going to go in with with Charlie and lower his stamina a little bit so they can do 1-2 punch with Doyle. I'm not sure, but and the other point is to Eagles' comment earlier is they may be hedging their bets for some changes down the road next season.
Yeah, that's absolutely possible. Robert, let me bring you in here. I'm sure you're shocked like the rest of us. As I was looking through Florida's roster, I thought for sure they would go defensive tackle or linebacker here.
Yeah, I thought that was the easy way to go for them. Running back, I guess it was something I kind of thought about, but until teams need 2 running backs, it's just a weird place to put an extra spot on your roster. I think that the league is at some point going to move in that direction. But at the moment, like Charles said, Doyle and Charlie Beletsky could be an awesome 1-2 punch if they're able to figure it out.
Okay, Eddie Gage, San Diego on the clock now with their last pick of the draft after Florida just picked theirs. Where do you think San Diego goes here?
Well, looking at their roster, it's what glares out is that they need a free safety, and I was surprised. Look at them earlier that they don't have one. So, I mean, obviously that's where I'd go. But again, it's just shocking that they don't have one as of yet because they have so much depth in other areas. So, my guess is free safety.
Okay, Tyler, do you agree with Eddie Gage? As I'm looking at their roster, free safety looks like the obvious choice.
Yeah, I'm definitely thinking free safety as well. Just real quickly, because I know the pick's in. My 2 guesses are Artie Smith, the free safety, or maybe moving David Leathers from strong safety to free safety over there. Those 2 guys are really impactful.
I think David Leathers is a great pick. All right, let's kick it back to Cam, and let's see who San Diego picks for their final pick of the draft.
With the 50th pick in the SFL Season 16 rookie draft, the San Diego Mavericks select Ray Lenerl III, free safety. DC's on the clock with the 51st pick.
Wow, Eagle, we got the position right, but not necessarily the player. What do you think about that?
No, that's where I would have gone. Looking back at San Diego's, what they needed the most was a free safety. Ray, Eric Duggar, one of them, that's where I would have gone. So it's a good pick for San Diego.
We got a little look in there of Ray with the San Diego camo baseball hat. He looks like a happy camper. Congrats, Ray. Robert, let me bring you in as well. We got the position right. I think that part was the no-brainer. Did you think this was the player they were going to pick?
Yeah, I did not think that Ray was the guy they're going to go to. And it's nothing against him, but just looking at his player, 5'10", 195, the free safety helps out with these big receivers, sometimes the tight end. And that's going to be a mismatch that he's going to have to work on and build his player around.
That's good. Charles, let me bring you in for this pick coming up with DC. They've got a lot of picks tonight. They have 12 of the 20 picks just tonight. It's a DC night. It's DC all the time, all night. Where do you think DC goes with this first of 12 picks tonight?
Well, I'm looking down the line at Tulsa and Houston and what they need, and I think Tulsa needs a linebacker and a defensive back, and Houston needs a couple guys on defense, either defensive end or linebacker, or maybe even offensive line or wide receiver. But I'm thinking, heck, I've been wrong so far, but I'm thinking they're going to go defensive line. But to the previous pick, all I'm going to say is there are a lot of stud defensive backs on the board right now. And to Robert's point about the size, I love guys that are undersized because they tend to go out there and ball on the field. And Eric may not be saying his last name right, but Gugger. He's 5'9", and he's he was at the top of my list after we took our guy.
Eddie Gage, they looks like they've got 4 offensive players and only 3 defensive players so far, so they have a lot more defense to fill in than offense. You think they go defense here?
Well, Dave, as I called it in the first round of draft, they went running back. No one believed me except DC. So now I'm going to take a stab at this. I'm just guessing now because they have so many needs. But with the lack of depth on the defensive line, I'm going to go defensive tackle, and I'm going to go out on a whim and say perhaps Exodus O'Bannon. He was my second highest rated defensive tackle next to my guy, Max Knight. So my guess, defensive tackle, and Exodus O'Bannon is their pick.
Okay.
I'm going to put money on that, Dave, because here's what you don't know about Eddie. He calls every owner, and he gets the scoop on everyone. So he's like the Rona Barrett of the SFL. He knows what's going on, man. So
Eddie, what are the lottery numbers for tonight?
They're going to pick somebody.
Well, if Eddie can get the lottery numbers, we'd be good to go. Robert Garrett Jr., real quick. They took a tight end last night. Do they add a wide receiver?
I don't think they need to go wide receiver quite yet. Obviously, they have a lot to go in the draft, and none of the teams that are still around really need a receiver. Honestly, I think that DC could mix it up here. They might draft a defensive lineman, but draft them as an offensive lineman.
Interesting. That's a great point. And Eagle, I'll go to you before we go to the pick. They, like I said, they have a wide receiver, they have a running back, they have a tight end. They definitely need defense.
Yeah, I'm actually going off of Eddie. That's exactly who I would be taking is Exodus here with this pick.
Okay. All right. Well, the pick is in, so we'll shoot it back to Cam. Cam, who's DC's pick?
With the 51st pick in the SFL Season 16 rookie draft, the DC Dragons select Exodus O'Bannon, defensive tackle. Tulsa's on the clock with the 52nd pick.
All right, Charles, you were shaking your head. What do you got?
If we go back and we look at the call logs of Eddie Gage, I think there's going to be some to Destro on his cell phone. So he knew it was going down. Don't you smile? Go ahead and smile. I know you.
Eddie, what do you got to say about that?
I did speak with Destro last night, but it was not about his third round selection. So just looking at it, Tulsa could possibly go after defensive tackle, and now if DC did their homework, which I'm assuming they did, they see that Tulsa could have used one, and so they wanted to shore up that lack of depth in the draft with defensive tackles, and they picked up a good one. Because I'm telling you, I interviewed that guy too. He's a great player.
Tyler, last thing on DC before we move on to Tulsa. We talked about how they need defense. We know there was only a few defensive linemen left on the board, so is this a good pick for them?
This is a definite plus for their draft grade. Definite plus for the team as a whole. They could not afford, in my opinion, to pass on Exodus Brandon at this pick. So they checked all the boxes with Exodus.
Yeah, I agree with that. Eagle, let me bring you in and ask you about Tulsa. Tulsa only has 2 picks tonight to wrap up their draft. They also need some defensive line help, potentially a linebacker, or could they go 5th DB here?
If I'm Tulsa, I'm probably going to be going linebacker here. Looking at over, they've got DJ and they've got Espen, so I'm looking linebacker here with the next pick probably a defensive back.
Okay, Robert, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. We talked about it a little bit before the show, but Espen Royale has been talking about retiring after this season. I think they need to get their guy at linebacker and be able to build him up throughout the season to replace Espen if he does decide to retire.
Okay. Eddie Gage, defense wins championships. You think Tulsa goes lineman, linebacker, or DB?
I'm thinking they're going corner or defensive tackle. Corner, as you guys stated, there's a lot of value out there still left, so perhaps they go defensive tackle.
That's a good point. Charles, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to go corner, or if they go defensive tackle, I really like Benny Butcher. I mean, he out of all the remaining defensive tackles out there, he's the highest in pass rush. So again, to my comment earlier, he's basically a plug and play defensive tackle.
Who's that on the screen? Anybody? Roberto DeMora? Okay. He's looking like he's pretty serious about what they're going to be picking over there. Tyler, where do you think they go?
Well, I think if they really want to mess up plans for DC, because Exodus was their first defensive lineman pick, you definitely go and take one of the 2 remaining defensive linemen still on the board. So we'll have to see if that's their plan or their plan is more focused on something else. So I like Ryan Ray. Casey Husky's definitely 2 solid picks. R.D. Smith, in my opinion, is still on the board. I think he should have been gone a long time ago. So maybe we see them pick up R.D. Smith with this pick.
Okay. Eagle, let me ask you real quick. You know, this has been turned into a kind of a passing league the last couple seasons. Does 5th DB make sense here?
It makes sense, yes, but I think the needs are more at the linebacker spot. There are still some quality defensive backs left.
Right.
Linebackers are starting to shrink up a little bit, so Tulsa needs to make sure they get their guy here.
Yeah, it looks to me that there's probably a good maybe 15 DBs still on the board with only a few linebackers, and I believe we said 1 defensive lineman. Robert, real quick before we go to Cam here in a moment, could they do anything else?
I mean, as we've been talking about, they could look at corner there. There's still some decent value around. One guy that I see stand out is Gerard Brody. Could be a good fit guy for them to play in the nickel and really just see how he meshes with the team.
Okay. And looks like they don't need any offense. And their 3 picks, all 3 of their picks so far all start with the letter J. Do we have any guys that begin with the letter J coming up? Julian Valerie, maybe? Josh Santini?
Josh Rowe.
So who knows? Maybe we go another J here. So I believe the pick is in. Cam waiting on us. So Cam?
Thanks, Dave. And a correction to that last pick, O'Brien will be a defensive end, not defensive tackle for the Dragons.
Okay.
With the 52nd pick in the SFL Season 16 rookie draft, the Tulsa Desperados select Jonell Ritter, linebacker. Houston's on the clock with the 53rd pick.
Okay, Eddie Gage, they went linebacker. They didn't go DB or defensive line. How do you feel about this pick?
Well, I did not know about the pending retirement of Espen Royale, so perhaps they're thinking in the future because they've never gone with 3 linebackers before. But if he does indeed retire, good riddance, because he's been a pain in the SFL side for quite some time.
Yeah. Charles, how do you like this pick?
I just want to say that Eddie only gets partial credit for
Brandon.
because he said defensive tackle. He
Okay.
doesn't get full credit for that. But anyway,
So
if I would,
we did get the letter J, though. We did get the letter J on this.
you still got Ryan Ray on the board. I mean, somebody's got to pick him up. I think he's a steal.
Yeah. Robert Garrett Jr., do you like this pick for Tulsa, or do you think they should have gone line?
Oh, this was a great pick for Tulsa. You know, as we've already kind of tossed around the pending retirement of Espen Royale, if that is a thing at the end of this season, it would be perfect to be able to build up Jonelle Ritter and have him ready to go and fill in that second spot for them if they decide not to come back with 3 linebackers next season.
Yeah, that's a good point. Houston on the clock now. Houston has 4 picks tonight to wrap up their draft. They could use a fullback, a tight end. They also could use a defensive lineman, a linebacker, or a 5th DB. Tyler, where do you think Houston goes with this first of 4 picks tonight?
Well, we'll have to see where they go. Again, there's a lot of things open to them. So as far as linebacker goes, Casey Husky's still on the board. Ryan Ray, 2 solid linebackers. Maybe bring a strong safety into the mix here. John Stamango still on the board. Julian Valier, Harry Husky, and David Leathers are still those strong safeties, and every one of them could jump in and fill. But my money's on Casey Husky at this pick.
Casey Husky on this one. Okay, Eagle, what do you think about Houston? Like I mentioned, they could go fullback, they could go tight end, but they also have a few needs on the defensive side.
I'm looking on the offensive side. I'm looking at tight end. I'm looking at Steven Walker with this pick. If DC wants to go with a 2 tight end set, the tight ends are going to start shrinking up. So Houston's got to go and get their player. So I'm looking at Steven Walker or Randy Pierce here.
As we get a look at Damon in the sneak peek look in with his baby. We had Eagle with his baby on the pregame show here. I think, Charles, didn't you have a baby with you as well this evening?
I did not. But hey, Eagle is a very smart man. And I want to say that
I've never heard that before. One
of the things about his pick for Steven Walker, what I like about him is his his run blocking. It's the best out of all the tight ends left on the board. So you can plug him in there, and I use that word all the time. But at this point, as an owner, what I'm looking for, guys that can come in and contribute right away. And with his run blocking, he's going to be able to open up lanes for Warren Murray.
Okay, let me make a quick correction. I forgot there are no fullbacks available left for the draft. So tight end, defensive line, linebacker, or potentially 5th DB. There's a lot of DBs still on the board, Robert. So I don't think they're going to go there. Do you think they go tight end or they go D-line or linebacker?
I think they have to go defensive line or linebacker here. And there's something key that I'm surprised you or Charles hasn't brought up yet, and that Houston is playing in a very dangerous South Division. I think all 3 of us could argue that. And, we got quick fire offenses. You got guys like Mike Daggs in Mexico City, and Dave Axe is your receiver for Lone Star. If Houston doesn't have a defense, they could struggle in the South Division.
It looks like his baby's putting some defense on Damon right now. That looks like a little bit of a face mask, though. Eddie, defense wins championships. You say it all the time. We said it once already tonight. Where does Houston go with this pick with your inside information?
I think Houston goes with a tight end. I think they go to tight end, and I think they probably pick up Randy Pierce and keep that Memphis theme going.
Randy Pierce, you said?
Ooh.
Okay. All right.
Pierce is from Madison, though, there, Eddie.
I don't think Eddie heard you. Okay. Well, it looks like the pick is in. Let's kick it back to Cam and see if Houston goes offense or defense.
It's a producer's dream right here. Just keep giving us good content. With the 53rd pick in the SFL Season 16 rookie draft, the Houston Hyenas select Cabrin Womack, defensive end. DC back on the clock with the 54th pick.
Okay, so Charles, they go D-line. That leaves, I believe, only one defensive lineman left on the board. That's That puts a lot of pressure on the following picks, but how do you feel about this pick?
It's not bad. I mean, I would have gone for Benny Butcher in this one again because of you got 5 more on the pass rush, but Damon knows what he's doing, and what am I to critique Damon Simeon? So he knows what he's doing, but 2 great defensive tackles on the board, and they thought for what they saw in Womack was what they wanted on their team. So props to them.
So Tyler, confirm 1 defensive line left on the board, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So that's going to put a whole, like you were saying, Dave, a whole lot of pressure on DC, as Exodus is currently their only lineman they've signed throughout this entire offseason. So DC's not known in the past for signing a whole lot of linemen, but in this new generation of the SFL, I think having a very small core of defensive linemen is going to significantly impact the DC Dragons' progress this season.
I agree. Eagle, what do you think about Houston's pick? And do you agree with Tyler? It puts a lot of pressure on DC to pick up a defensive lineman with their next pick.
It's not pressure. It's you draft Benny Butcher. That's where we're at. There's no pressure at all. It's you have 1 left. You have 1 person on the line. You have to draft Benny Butcher here.
Well, we're getting a little sneak peek of Jermaine on the phone. His face looks a little funny. So maybe he's like, wait a minute, there's only 1 defensive lineman left. We better grab him. Eddie, what do you think that conversation is looking like?
I think it's looking like exactly what you just said. Hold on, we need to show up our defensive line and get the last guy off the board.
Yeah, I agree. Robert Garrett Jr., where does DC go with this? Do they need to grab this lineman, or do they pick one of their several other needs?
I think they need to grab this defensive lineman now, only because Tulsa, one of their needs is defensive tackle. If Tulsa needed some other position, then maybe it's not as big as a deal and you wait, but you don't want to miss out on getting this defensive lineman. Right,
especially with so many DBs. And I know, Charles, you said that you thought maybe they should go DB here, but does it make sense to hold the DB off when there's only so few linemen?
Yeah, you got to go defensive lineman here.
Yeah, I agree. Tyler, real quick, and I think we need to go to Cam. It looks like the pick is in. Same question to you. They need to go defensive line probably, but we know Destro in the past did not have defensive linemen. You touched on this a moment ago. Is there any other way they could go?
Well, we could see if the plan is to be more exotic and bring a lot more linebackers in the package, we might see a linebacker pick here. We might see Husky or Ray come off the board here. But for me, it's a mistake not to take Butcher.
Okay. Well, let's find out if Butcher is going to DC as we kick it back to Cam to find out. Cam?
With the 54th pick of the SFL Season 16 rookie draft, the DC Dragons select Eric Gugger, cornerback. Tulsa's on the clock with the 55th pick.
Wow. So, Eddie Gage, that shows us a lot of what DC's plans are for this upcoming season on the defensive line. What do you think about that?
I mean, you never know what he's thinking, what his philosophy is. We don't all think the same. It's more than one way to successfully run a defense. So, but I do like the pick, though. I noticed they moved him from his natural position, but I love the pick. He's a great guy. I talked to him as well.
Okay. Robert Garrett Jr., when you go against some of the running backs we have in the South, a Warren Murray, and Ike McBride, does this, if they have to play us or, anybody, they could play, Robert Redford, a Hollywood, anybody. Is this going to hurt DC this season?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think having extra defensive backs hurts you against the running game, but in this situation, and I touched on it earlier with a different draft pick, but Eric Gugger, 5'9", 190 pounds, going up against a running back like Ike McBride, and as you said, many others, it's going to be hard to take them down when they're carrying the ball at full speed.
Yeah, I agree. Eagle, not having that extra defensive lineman, same question to you. Is that going to hurt DC this season?
Well, it's not going to hurt because now they have to hope that Tulsa doesn't select the defensive lineman, right? So if Tulsa doesn't select a defensive lineman, then it's a win for DC in the long run. So it's on fate for DC is out of their hands right now.
Right. Tyler, you agree with what Eagle said, or because DC could use multiple defensive linemen, right?
In my opinion, I 100% agree with Eagle. I said it earlier; it's a mistake to let Butcher buy in this case. Last night, London was thanking DC for letting Ciroc Black fall to them. I think Tulsa's going to be thanking DC for letting Benny Butcher fall to them.
Oh, that's a great point. Tulsa would be next. Obviously, they're still on the clock. What do you think, Charles? Is this Butcher time?
Yeah, I think so. But to the comments around DC, I think Destro knows what he's doing. And if he wants to go in there with a full stable of linebackers and a full stable of defensive backs, I wouldn't do that personally. But if you've got some coaches' points and some generic points to put on the line, I think you'll be okay. If you just all you need to do is keep them out of the end zone, and we are. It might change next season or this season, excuse me, but we are I think a pass heavy league. So if you keep them out of the end zone, it doesn't matter, if they run all the way to the 20.
So Robert Garrett Jr., Tulsa took a defensive tackle or defensive end already. Or I'm sorry, linebacker, right? Tulsa took a linebacker. So if they don't need to go fifth DB, the only option they really have is to take that last defensive lineman and Butcher, right?
I was just looking at their roster composition and thinking about it. I'm not quite sure who all's on their coaching staff, but one thing that catches my eye, and in the past, Gabriel Manning as a coach loves to spread the ball out, throw the ball from the shotgun. They could go wide receiver 4 here. I don't think it's a real big thing, but it's a possibility.
Okay. Well, let's find out. The pick is in. Cam's ready to let us know. So let's see if they go 4 wide or if they pick up the last defensive lineman of the draft.
With the 55th pick in the SFL Season 16 rookie draft, the Tulsa Desperados select Julian Valier, cornerback. Houston is on the clock with the 56th pick.
Wow. So Eddie Gage, they do go 5th DB over grabbing that other linebacker or going 4 wide. Is that a smart pick?
Well, I kind of figured they wouldn't go 4 wide because that would take away targets from Gabriel Manning. So, that's obviously not in their plan. So they want to feed their guys early and often as possible. But I do like the pick, though.
Yeah, Charles. Same question.
Yeah, well, so here's the thing I like about Julian. He's coming in there with a 90 tackle. So if you're talking about stopping running backs coming out of the backfield, on the edge, I think he's going to do it. He's got he's 6'2", 211. He's got the build to bring a running back down. So I've got no beef at all with this pick.
So Eagle, I asked you earlier if 5th DB is the way to go, the way that this has become a passing league. Apparently Tulsa thinks so. What do you think about the pick?
Well, you also forgot one thing. It's another J name.
It's another J name. That's 5 J name pick for Tulsa?
Yeah, 5 J names. No, I said it before Tulsa's first pick, right? I said, they would go linebacker, and then the second pick, they go in the secondary. I think it's a great player. I'm curious what's going to happen with us playing Tulsa twice this year. Would see what the rookies for Tulsa have. So I'm excited.
Right. Robert Garrett Jr., Houston's on the clock. Let's see. They already grabbed tonight. They grabbed their defensive lineman. So they go linebacker or 5th DB here.
I think they go linebacker here. And it goes back to something you brought up earlier, and that is the running backs in the SFL are only getting better. Mm-hmm. If you don't have the front 7, front 8 to stop these running backs, you can't win the games. So I think Houston's thinking about that. They still have 3 picks, and tight end is still there, but they're the only team that needs it unless DC wants to go with 2 tight ends, and I don't think that they're going to.
Okay. Tyler, where do you fall on that?
So I kind of like the linebacker aspect. I'm thinking Ryan Ray is going to go instead of Casey Husky, and I have a sneaking suspicion that Casey Husky and Harry Husky, the strong safety, are both going to DC. So I'm thinking they're going to take Ryan Ray off the board.
Okay. Charles, piggybacking on what Robert just said,
All right.
we have a tough division in the South anyway. Where do you think that Houston needs to go with this pick to
I'm
kind
not
of?
going to do Eddie Gage on this one. I'm going all in. I'm going to say that they're going to draft Benny Butcher, and they're going to make him a defensive end. How do you like that, Eddie?
How do you like that, Eddie?
Hey, I'll go with Charles on this one. Maybe he made a phone call, but tight end is a need, but they can get that later. So sure, why not shore up that defensive line?
All right. Well, if they do take Butcher, that depletes the defensive lineman for the entire draft. And then after this, it's just DC and Houston alternating picks. So there was Damon celebrating something for a split second. Tyler, let me bring you back in real quick. Butcher or fifth DB? What do you think here?
So I know I said Ryan Ray at the beginning. Again, Benny Butcher's still on the board. He had a fantastic season in the minor league. I want to jump on that bandwagon, but I also see Ryan Ray. But the way DeMond was reacting, I think they just took the last lineman off the board.
Okay, right before I send it back to Cam, Eagle, I saw you hold up a 5. You're thinking fifth DB?
Yeah, I'm thinking 50 defensive back, John Stemengo here.
Okay. All right, well, let's find out. Cam, who is Houston's next pick?
With the 56th pick in the SFL Season 16 rookie draft, the Houston Hyenas select Randy Pierce, tight end. DC's on the clock with the 57th selection.
All right, well, let me send it to the tight end on the panel, Robert Garrett Jr. Another little surprise there. What do you think?
Yeah, I love seeing a tight end get drafted and making his way to a team. I don't know if it was the time for Houston to do that. DC doesn't need a tight end at this point. They drafted theirs yesterday. Again, unless they're going to go 2 tight ends, and it sounds like they're going to try to spread out the ball and do a lot of passing. They had linebacker, corner there, but I was also looking at their roster. They do have 5 DBs, it appears, unless I just miscounted along the way. So if they draft another defensive back, it will be a guy for the dime spot.
Right. Tyler, actually, Eagle, let me ask you real quick. You right before I went to Cam, you said 5th DB, didn't see tight end coming. What do you think about that pick? Is it, we talked about, and we talk about a lot on my show, but we talk a lot about it in the SFL in general. This past season was the season of the tight end. Are other teams jumping on that? Are we going to see a lot of second tight ends added, do you think?
Well, I mean, we jumped on it. We have a second tight end now in St. Louis.
Right.
But the pick before for Houston, I said tight end and was wrong. So this time I decided not to say it. And I was wrong. So it's a lose-lose situation over here. I do think having a second tight end can bring different packages to the game, helps out, with the running back on blocking. So I do see the league kind of going to a lot of teams with the second tight end.
Okay. DC's on the clock, and I'm going to ask you guys about them again in a moment. But Eddie, you were actually, I think, the only one who said Houston might go tight end. What made you think that?
Because Damon likes to run that counter trade. He killed Lone Star with it last season. Robert. His tailback had a field day, and but after that, it kind of got shut down a bit. And having that second tight end in the lineup, once he gets his blocking up, it could open some doors for that running game.
Charles, do you agree with Eddie?
Oh,
especially
yeah.
especially in our division.
Yeah, I mean, you always want a tight end. I think I said it earlier for the running back for Houston. I mean, it's only going to help. Somebody's got to pick Benny Butcher there because I just think he's a stud, and he's got to get on somebody's squad here pretty quickly.
Yeah, Tyler, is this where Butcher finally goes to DC?
DC better be counting their lucky stars because they get a second chance to draft another defensive lineman. So again, it's a 2-horse race now. It'll be either Houston or DC who picks him up. We'll see what happens.
What do you think, Eagle? Are you going to hold up a 5 again, or you think they actually grab Butcher here?
I mean, I've been wrong with DC every pick so far. The needs, there's so many needs that they have. I'm just going to throw a curveball and say wide receiver.
Wide receiver. Anybody in particular?
Yeah.
Wow.
I had great convos with Maximus Blue, Ryan Roosevelt, Kingston Ellington. That's where I'd be looking right now if I was DC.
Okay.
I also think there's a steal from a wide receiver standpoint. Jeff Banfield. I mean, I think he's a sleeper out there. If you get him on your squad, I mean, I think he's going to produce early.
Well, with a bunch of wide receivers and DBs still on the board, Robert, do you think wide receiver or DB is a good pick here, or do you think they need to grab Butcher?
Looking at rosters again, Houston seems to have 2 defensive end, 2 defensive tackle. They don't really need another defensive lineman. So DC, if they could just sit and wait and take that later when they have all their picks coming up, they could look at taking linebacker here. Honestly, Casey Husky, Ryan Ray, 2 great options. Houston still has that spot for a linebacker.
Okay, well, let's find out. The pick is in and Cam is ready. So let's see who they go with.
With the 57th pick of the SFL Season 16 rookie draft, the DC Dragons select Benny Butcher, defensive tackle. Houston's on the clock with the 58th pick.
Finally, Benny Butcher. We've been talking about him for a couple days now, Eddie Gage. Smart pick here. Is it, or did they not have any choice? What do you think?
I think it was the obvious choice for anyone paying attention. It was a position of need, and they need to go ahead and shore them up. Obviously they need wide receivers too, but there are a host of great wide receivers available still with great value. So they know they'll get at least one of those guys. They already have one wide receiver on the roster now. So, it was the obvious choice.
Yeah, Tyler, we finally get to say Benny Butcher's name. Maybe he should have gone earlier, but do you like the pick here?
I absolutely love the pick here. Should have got him 3 picks sooner, in my opinion. But no, Benny Butcher finally gets his plane ticket punched to DC, and now that defensive line is a little bit more stable for DC.
Okay. Eagle, Houston's back on the clock. I feel like we just talked about them, which we did. They took a tight end and surprised us with their last pick. Where do you think they go this time?
Geez. They're going to go, I think, oh, man. You got me off guard on that one. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
No, it's funny. You got to go secondary here. You either got to draft your nickel corner. You got to draft your nickel corner here.
Okay. Charles, do you agree with Eagle?
Well, it looks like they've already got 5. But I would maybe go linebacker. I don't know. They've got 3 defensive line. They've got 2 linebackers. I think they're probably going to want to add to that linebacking core.
I thought Houston only had 4 DBs.
I could be wrong.
What am I missing?
They have 2 strong safeties.
They got 2 strong safeties. I misread.
Okay. All right.
Now Eagle's not going to talk to me again. Oh, we were building a bridge, and then it just crumbled.
And then it just collapsed. So we crossed. They don't need a fullback, or there's no fullbacks available. They don't need a 5th DB. They already got their tight end. They already got their defensive end. Is linebacker the obvious choice here, Robert?
I think it's the way I would go if I was drafting for Houston right now. But Eddie touched on it earlier. The runs they like to run out of, a lot of them are 2 tight end sets. Maybe they just go for that second tight end now. Not a whole lot of rush on it, but there's Stephen Walker still on the board, and he might fit in pretty well with that offense.
Okay. Charles, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
I would love for them to draft a second tight end and not a linebacker.
And that's because?
Because I would like to run against 2 linebackers.
Well, I think the pick is in, but before I go to Cam real quick, Eddie Gage, what are your thoughts on this pick?
As I said, Sim runs that counter trade more than any other team in the SFL. if he gets a second tight end, once he gets his run blocking up, if he can convince that player, look, I know you want speed, agility, all that stuff, everyone that all the pros want. But if you can shore up that run blocking, dude, you could be a Hall of Fame second tight end this season because Warren Murray is gonna love you and buy you dinner every night.
Tyler, before I send it back to Cam, do you think a second tight end is smarter than a third linebacker here?
Well, they have another pick to do it, and what better way to say to Houston that, or what better way to say to DC is I'm going to pick this next tight end and shore up my running game and be a force coming in season 16.
Yeah, there's only 3 tight ends and 3 linebackers left on the board. Is that right, Tyler?
Let me get back to that. There's 3 linebackers, 3 tight ends, correct?
3 and 3. So they both teams have time here. So let's see. The pick is in. Let's see who Houston goes with the 58th pick.
With the 58th pick in the SFL Season 16 rookie draft, the Houston Hyenas select Kyle Fenimore, wide receiver. DC's back on the clock with the 59th pick.
Okay, Fenimore had a great championship game. He had a great SFL minor league career or season this season. Eagle as a wide receiver. What do you think about that pick? I mean, we're sitting here and we're talking tight end, we're talking linebacker, and they pull another fast one on us and go wide receiver.
Looking at Houston's roster, in a way it makes sense, right? You got DR Sim, you got Leroy Brown valued over 100. And then they just signed they out of retirement Greg Corky to a 77.8. So Kyle's going to slide right into the third spot here. For the future of the team, I think it's a smart move going with a wide receiver here.
Okay. Robert Garrett Jr., you agree with the Eagle, or do you think defense should have been the priority?
I think looking at it now, I do agree with Eagle. And it's actually more of a thing for me because they just brought E.T. King in, who previously played in Chicago. I think they want to spread out the ball a little bit more, do a little bit that they probably couldn't do as well with Quintez around.
Okay. Charles, since Houston's in our division, you didn't get that third linebacker. I think they still have one more pick left, so they could get it there. But what do you think about this wide receiver pick?
Yeah, Houston's got a master plan here. But what I like about Fenimore is he's maxed out on catch, and he's a great route runner, and he's one of the best, if not the best, route runner left on the board. So, in regards to a fourth wide receiver, I mean, you can't get any better than that. I mean, he's going to go in there, and he could probably play wide receiver 3 on most teams in the SFL, but he's going to be in there at wide receiver 4. And he's going to cause some damage. Hopefully not against us, but he's going to cause some damage.
Hopefully not against us. All right. So DC has one last pick before Houston's last pick. You see Jermaine Smith in our look-in camera on the phone right now, it's like maybe potentially a pretty intense conversation with someone. Could be a player, could be a front office person, could be Cam. Who knows? Eddie Gage. Let's go to Eddie Gage. Again, DC still needs a lot, so it's kind of wide open here. Where do you think they go?
Well, as I said earlier, there's a lot of value at wide receiver, so they don't necessarily need to rush things there. But wow, going back to Houston, Kyle Fenimore was a great pick. He got a lot of value. He's actually going to be the number 3 wide receiver, which I'm kind of wondering now how Corey's going to feel about slide down to the 4th position.
Right.
So perhaps I'm sure DR Sim gave him a call and said, "Hey man, do you mind playing that 4th position?" before he made that pick. But great selection, great kid. He's going to do great things. Houston likes to air it out. And one thing about E.T. King, he has one of the better deep balls in the entire SFL. So it may work out for him there. But I am kind of surprised they didn't go to tight end. DC, I don't know. I mean, your guess is just good as mine. Who knows what they go here?
So here's something interesting. I'm looking at DC's roster right now, Tyler, and they got their quarterback and running back in free agency. They picked a tight end yesterday and a wide receiver and a running back on the last 2 days. They've gone nothing but defense so far today. Is it time to go back to the offensive side of the ball, or do you need to finish shoring up your defense here?
No, I think you have to shore up your defense more. For me personally, I was a little awestruck in the fact they were taking a whole bunch of offensive players early. And for me, this isn't against the players that were picked. They're great players. Josh Gill, Kevin Say, Ziggy, all fantastic players. I'm just thinking the manner in which they picked them, I think they should have gotten defense early to compete with everyone that needed defensive players. And so I think because I'm thinking Houston's going to go defense next, DC definitely has to go defense here.
Charles, you agree with Tyler, or do you think they start opening up the offense again?
I will never disagree with Tyler, but I do have to make a comment about Destro. Destro's on the phone there. He's so intense. I mean, I can see him ordering Domino's pizza with that same, I want a pepperoni large, 15 minutes. I mean, he rolls, man. He's intense. I love that guy to death.
I'll see if I can get him on my show tomorrow night, and I'll ask him, who were you on the phone with during the 59th pick? Speaking of the 59th pick, I believe the pick is in. So, Cameron Irvine, it's back to you.
With the 59th pick in the SFL Season 16 rookie draft, the DC Dragons select Riley Hughes, outside linebacker. Houston is on the clock with their final 60th selection.
Okay, Robert. So DC continues their defensive trend. What do you think about Riley Hughes at this spot?
I think taking Riley Hughes there made the most sense. You had 3 linebackers left. It looks like Houston will probably go linebacker here because they only have 2. So if you don't take who you want now, he might not be there for your next pick.
Do you agree with Robert, or what do you think? Do you think they could have gone offensive side of the ball there?
They could have gone offensive side, but you need linebackers, right? Defense is going to win the championships, but again, offense puts fans in the seats, right?
Exactly.
So luckily enough, DC's got 8 picks in a row here coming up, so they should fill all of their needs right there towards the end.
Right. After Houston's next pick, it's pretty much all DC all the time. As I'm looking, defensive tackle, they got they have 2 defensive linemen. That's now their second linebacker. But I only see 2 DBs here. Eddie Gage, what do you think about this Riley Hughes pick at linebacker? Did it fill the need that they needed, and was that the right place to go at this time?
Well, Houston has 2 strong safeties, and they use that second strong safety to play the slot. I know it's kind of confusing because a lot of teams use either a corner or a free safety, but Houston chooses to do it a strong safety. They generated a lot of turnovers last season. I believe they were 3rd or 4th in the SFL, so I can't fault the logic there because it's they have proven results. So your guess is as good as mine with this last pick they have here. There's no more defensive linemen to take. So I'm just guessing just like you guys are.
Yeah, I think we're starting to get to that point. Tyler, we like the Riley Hughes pick. Where do you think Houston goes here? There's not a lot of choices left.
Not a lot of choices, but still some great players still on the board. We still have Artie Smith on the board, still have Gerard Brody on the board that we mentioned a couple of times. John DeSantis, free safety, still on the board. David Leathers, John Stomango, Harry Husky. They've got a lot of different options they can go depending on what their scheme is going to be for season 16. And again, only 2 linebackers left on the board. Maybe they take one of those and really narrow the option down for DC.
I kind of see his linebackers the only option to go here, Eagle, for Houston. Do you agree with that, or do you see something I'm missing?
I'm just going to throw it out there. We're going to see a tight end 2 here. They have 4 wide receivers, but you can bring 2 tight ends in to help Warren Murray with the run. So I think they're going to stay with the 2 linebackers. They're going to bring a second tight end in and help Warren Murray block with the blocking game.
Wow, that's interesting. Charles, I see you nodding. You agree with Eagle?
It would be interesting. My gut says linebacker, but I would not be surprised if they went tight end.
Robert Garrett, they going linebacker here. Charles said earlier it'd be nice to run in our division against only 2 linebackers. Do you think they're actually going to do that, or they're going to get their 3rd one right here?
No, I think they take a 3rd linebacker here. I think they're looking at Ryan Ray coming out of Albuquerque. I'm fairly certain that Ethan Kai is on the coaching staff in Albuquerque, so those guys would already know each other fairly well. I think that's the pick.
You think that's the pick? Okay. All right. Well, it looks like the pick is in. So, Cam, let's find out the 60th pick, Houston's last pick of the draft. Who are they grabbing? I was like, that's what you get for trying to pull a joke on me.
Wow.
Let that be a lesson to everyone listening and watching. You don't pull a tricks on me. All right. Stephen Walker, tight end. Who was it that called second tight end? Was that you, Eagle?
Oh, yes, it was. Yeah.
All right. So break this down then. Stephen Walker was one of only, I think, 2 or 3 tight ends left.
Yeah, no. So maybe they're also playing for the future if the SFL goes to two running backs, right? Help the blocking. ET King wants to spread the ball out. Yeah, this is gonna be interesting with the 4 wide receivers and 2 tight ends.
Hey, Dave.
Yes,
Apparently
I'm seeing messages that
muted.
apparently you were muted.
Yep.
So not only does it single backfire, it double backfires on you.
You're muted, bro.
Steven
You're muted,
deserves
bro.
better. Stephen Walker, you are the 60th selection in the SFL Season 16 rookie draft. Get me out of here.
Eagle, I'm sorry, Cam cut you off. Go ahead and finish.
Well, Cam always will cut me off. It's
I
okay.
know.
No. Again, it's going to be interesting with Houston. I think they're looking towards the future of the league with more roster expansion. I'm really curious, though, how the 4 wide receiver, 2 tight end sets will work.
That's
out
a
there.
lot of offense.
It's a lot of offense. I mean,
Just a lot of guys on the bench.
Yeah, it is a lot of.
Right.
I mean, you're signing guys, and they're going to be plays where they're sitting on the bench. So you got to make sure you draft the right guy that's not, that's okay with sitting on the bench for a play or two. Sorry.
No, Charles, that's okay. I was actually going to go to you.
Anybody else want to interrupt me?
Yeah,
you already burned the bridge. So.
That's it. Eagle, go ahead and finish since you were rudely interrupted by both Cam and Charles.
No, it's okay. No, that's all. That's it. I'm done. It's fine. Let's go to the DC pick.
Oh, he just pulled the wife-girlfriend thing. No, never mind. Never mind. It's fine. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Forget about it. Actually, I do want to go to Eddie Gage, but before I do, Charles, you got your wish. Only 2 linebackers in Houston. Do you think having those 6 wide receivers and tight ends, do you think you think they have a master plan, but do you need a master plan on defense too?
It makes it a little, in my opinion, it makes it a little muddled from an offensive game planning standpoint. I mean, you either go 2 tight end and commit to it, or you go to 4 wide and commit to it. Again, you got to have the right people on the roster. I think Demond is, skilled at selecting the right people for his roster. I don't want to, I don't want to criticize that at all, but it does, it's like trying to meld a Porsche and a minivan in the same car.
Okay, well, thank you for that analysis. Eddie Gage, you used to play for Houston. You know Simeon pretty well. What do you think he's thinking here with the 6 offensive receivers and tight ends?
I'm going to echo what Charles said, and hopefully Demond called that second tight end, called that 4th wide receiver who's going to actually play the slot, and said, hey, guys, this first season, you may not be involved that much in the offense, but if you remain patient and allow me to work on your build, I'll get you where we need to be. I have a team goal in mind, and I need you all to be on the same page because there's going to be several plays where you're on the bench, not seeing your name out there on the field. And you need to be ready to accept that. But if you remain patient, come season 2, once your players start to progress more, then you'll probably see your player being involved more. So hopefully he made those conversations.
Tyler Falk, 2 linebackers left on the board. Houston did not grab one. What do you think about this pick?
So it's pretty much an open book now for DC. They don't have to worry about anyone taking their guy. They can just relax and pick whoever they want in whatever order they want. So I hinted at the beginning, they're probably going to pick up the Huskies, both Casey and Harry. They're probably going to pick up Josh Centenny at cornerback, and maybe another one. Maybe they'll go Josh Centenny and Gerard Brody. And then as far as wide receiver goes, it's probably going to be two of the three people. Probably Kay Marion, Jeff Banfield, or stop Hammer Time, Michael Hammer. So that's who I see.
That's a lot of predictions. Eagle, what do we hit? We've got 8 more picks, I think, for DC. Any particular order you think they go? Not that it matters, but what do you think?
Just roll a dice, and that's as Cam. Just roll a dice, and that's the position you have to pick for this. No, they're gonna finish their 2. They're gonna get their 2 wide receivers. I don't see it. I don't see them taking the last tight end on the board. They'll take both linebackers, I would think. So, maybe they just go down the line, right? So these first two picks are going to be wide receiver.
Okay. Robert Garrett, I think I saw you nodding. You agreeing with Eagle?
Yeah, it's just so random at this point for DC. And actually, I was nodding. I was thinking to myself, I got to imagine that Destro and Steven Molinax are loving this because, you have ideas. You can kind of guess what they're going to do. But in reality, you could put all the names in a hat, throw the hat at the wall, and then pick up a name, and you could either be right or wrong.
Right. And Charles, they basically just get to handpick their team from here on out. I'm guessing 8 picks in a row is probably unprecedented in the draft. Anywhere you think they might surprise us a little bit?
Surprise us. Wow. No, I think there's some gems left on the board here, and serious gems that I think could have gone earlier in the draft. Like Ryan Ray is still out there. I'm shocked about that. We've got the Josh Centers at corner and Cody Griffin and Aiden Bleeker. I think I'm saying that right. These guys have builds that are, and I hate to keep using that word, plug and play. They're going to go out there and they're going to contribute. And then don't forget, on the offensive side, we've got 2 wide receiver studs in Jeff Banfield and Maximus Blue. He comes from a good line, and he's one of those guys that, from a locker room standpoint, he's going to jump in there, and he's going to be one of those guys that's loyal and isn't going anywhere once you draft him. So lots of options for them, and it's just like Destro, it's like Christmas right now.
It really is. And I believe this is the portion of the show where Cam comes on to say we're going to start the drinking game of every time DC drafts, we take a shot. Cam?
Nope. With the 61st pick in the SFL Season 16 rookie draft, the DC Dragons select Kingston Ellington, wide receiver. DC still on the clock, pick 62.
All right, Eagle, I saw you clapping. Are you clapping for Kingston or the fact that they grabbed a wide receiver?
No, for Kingston. There was a lot of rookies that I would have loved to have in St. Louis. Kingston was one of them. We chatted. It just didn't work out in our situation, so I'm happy that he found himself on the field for next season.
That's good. Tyler, I also saw you nodding your head anxiously or thankfully. You like the pick, or you like it because of the person or because of the position?
I like it because of the pick, person, and position. Again, position you can pick it pretty much everywhere now. But no, Kingston Ellington is a fantastic player. Got to see him play live a few times. Kingston Ellington's definitely a superstar in the making.
Okay. Eddie Gage, what do you think about that pick, and where do you think DC goes next?
Like he just said, I like the player. He's a great kid. You see him a lot in chat. But if I'm DC, I'm not leaving this draft without selecting Michael Hammer. I love that kid. He's another one. He's great on and off the field. And of all the players left, I would love to see this guy get drafted.
Okay. Robert Garrett Jr., what about you? Where do you think DC goes here? You think they're going to go wide receiver like Eddie thinks, or what?
Yeah, I think they could go another wide receiver here and just kind of stay in the position group. But they could also go back to linebacker and go ahead and pick up either Ryan Ray or Casey Husky. Their names have been brought up multiple times, and we could see them come off here as well.
Eagle, give me one name that's still on the board that you're just feel 100% confident it's going to get drafted by DC?
Ryan Roosevelt, wide receiver.
Okay. Charles, same question to you.
Wow. Well, I'm looking up Ryan Roosevelt right now. Yeah, okay. I still think I really like Jeff Banfield as a wide receiver, and I'll tell you why. I mean, his catch, he's at 88, which is one of the best of the remaining wide receivers on the board, and his consistency is 81, and you can't underestimate that. So again, I think what DC's looking for is players that could come out there, and it just takes a little bit of tweaking to get them to the level they need to be. And I think Jeff Banfield is perfect in that scenario.
Okay. I think the pick's in already. I have a feeling these picks are going to come in a lot faster than normal. So, Cam, is the pick in?
Yes, it is. With the 62nd pick in the SFL's Season 16 rookie draft, the DC Dragons select K. Marion, wide receiver. DC with the 63rd pick coming up next.
Okay, Robert, they went wide receiver, not any of the ones that we mentioned, but what do you think about this K. Marion pick?
Yeah, the K. Marion pick is a solid pickup for them. And you know, we had really speculated that they'd probably just stay in the wide receiver position group for the time being. Just try to knock that position out now, and then they can look more into what they want to do with the rest of their team.
Okay. Tyler, how do you like this pick?
Yeah, I like K. Marion. She had a fantastic season with Madison, and she's going to do some really good things over in DC, and she's going to have Shabazz throwing her the ball. And, I really like watching how she performed. She really came into her own in the later part of the season as a player. So look for her to just continue that momentum when she steps on the field in DC.
Okay. Tyler, before I move on to Eddie, give me a name you see on the board that you think DC absolutely needs to draft tonight.
Well, the linebackers are definitely going to be moving forward. I just got word that Kay is going to be the social media director. I'm guessing that's from Destro. So that'll be very either DC's or the leagues. We'll have to get further confirmation from Cam. But another name that I see, DC Cameron, the commissioner just confirmed.
Okay.
I'm thinking in terms of maybe a nickelback, Artie Smith. I think Artie Smith has to come off the board at some point. And then Josh and Tenney, both those guys, I think, have to come off the board.
Okay. Eddie Gage, what do you think about the pick? And who do you think is someone that's left on the board that absolutely should be drafted by DC?
Congratulations on the pick. He drafted a position that's going to help them on and off the field. I saw him mention in the chat that she's going to indeed be their social media director. So he's knocking off two birds with one stone. So that's a great move there because it's tough. Take it from me. I had to learn the hard way. It's tough trying to do it all by yourself. I'm a hands-on guy. I'm involved in everything. And I had to come to a point in which I realized it's just too hard to do. And you need to trust the people you hire to do their job. Arizona learned that. And I'm glad to see that he's got someone doing social media. And hopefully he fills out the rest of that front office at some point once he gets to learn those guys a bit better. As far as the rest of the draft, I mean, who knows? I mean, he has the luxury. This is one thing, we joke about, but he has the luxury of now taking the players he needs without having to rust and wonder if they're going to fall to someone else. So, I mean, he's got the pick of the litter here. He does need to get depth at the linebacking core. He does need to get depth at corner as well. So hopefully we'll see him take one of those two spots here next.
Okay. Eagle, sounds like they got a great person at the wide receiver position on their last pick. Where do you think they go next?
I think that we're just going to go down the depth chart. We're going to be linebacker next. There's no defensive tackles. There's no offensive line unless they go with a tight end too. I'm seeing a linebacker here for DC.
Okay. It looks like the pick is just about in. I guess the second tight end could go here or another wide receiver, but I think you're right. I think they need to pick up their linebackers as well. So the pick is in. Cam, are you ready?
Yes, sir. With the 63rd pick in the SFL Season 16 rookie draft, the DC Dragons select Denise Sigilli, tight end. DC still on the clock with the 64th pick.
Interesting pick, Eagle. Let me shoot right back to you. You just called it tight end. What do you think about that pick? What made you think tight end maybe over grabbing their linebackers right now?
I actually said linebackers, not
Oh.
tight end. No,
Who said-
I'm not gonna. I'm going down the depth chart, but
Okay.
Dennis, he's been really active. He's a newer member to our community, so again, now we know it's the age of 2 tight ends. This is what's happening in the Simulation Football League. So now tight end is going to be a glorious spot for people to play.
I completely agree with that. Speaking of glorious, let me go to Robert Garrett Jr. And since he's a tight end as well, he's also a tight end. Okay, listen, we have talked about it.
Glorious.
We have talked about it. We beat it like a dead horse, Robert. This was the year of the tight end. So many teams now going 2 tight ends, and now DC's another one.
Hey, I don't think it's the worst idea here. Just because, they have Kevin Say and Shug Targaryen. They have 2 running backs. What better way to complement that than 2 tight ends that can block for them? We mentioned earlier with a different team, the 1-2 punch. Maybe this is DC figuring out their way to do it.
That's a good point. Charles, I know you thought I was coming to you when I said the word glorious.
Yeah.
But what do you think about some teams this season now starting to go with these 2 tight end systems?
Well, yeah, it's definitely sending out a message to all the other teams that aren't going 2 tight end. But from a DC standpoint, let me throw a curveball out here and see. Maybe they'll draft an offensive lineman. I know that Tyler shaking his head furiously there. To the play might fall off, but I'm just going to say that I don't know. I mean, if they're going to go 2 tight end, they're going to probably need somebody to block on the line.
Okay, Tyler, what were you about to say?
I was just going to say that all offensive linemen and defensive linemen, if I'm not mistaken, are off the board. So
okay, so
I thought there was 4 left. Sorry, I'm wrong.
So I guess unless there's somebody we don't know about, it looks like they will not be going offensive line or defensive line. Charles, you said to send a message. We also talked about Houston going so many wide receivers and so many tight ends. Does having a 2 tight end set kind of put your receiving core at a disadvantage?
It can, because from my standpoint, and I'm not saying I'm a veteran at this, but from what I've learned, that it's a level of commitment. You either go 2 tight end or you go 3 or 4 wide. I mean, it does make it. You got to get the right. It just makes it a little bit more complex from a management standpoint of your personnel. You got to make sure you get the right people in there that are willing to sit on the pine. You're going to be playing some teams where you might go heavy 2 tight end. You might be playing some teams where you go 3-4 wide, and that person that's sitting on the bench has got to be the right type of person that doesn't light fires in the locker room.
Okay, Eddie Gage, you want to piggyback on what Charles just said?
Yes, I mean, we touched on this earlier. You have to have those conversations with those players and letting them know, hey, this is the style of offense we're going to run. There are going to be days where you may not see the field as often. I know, for example, if you play a team like Charleston who has 2 tight ends, you're either going to be in nickel all day or you're going to be in 4-3 defense all day. It just depends on how you choose to attack them that particular week. So teams just have to have that mindset and have those conversations with those players. I'm not saying it's a mistake. It's just something you don't really see a lot of. But I will say the advantage of going that heavy is there are plays in the playbook you see a lot of SFL teams not even bother putting in because they tend to get ran frequently when you go heavy. And so if you put in, say, 2 formations with 2 tight end sets, they tend to get called early and often. But if you have the personnel to do it, it's something you don't mind seeing. So perhaps they go that way too. But also knowing Destro, I can see why he drafted 2 tight ends, because he's another player, just knowing him from previous experience, who likes that counter trade. I mean, he loves it. He'll tell you all day, I'm going counter trade left, counter trade right, and every now and then I'm going to throw the ball deep downfield to keep you honest. So he's another one with that 2 tight end set. You know, once he get that run blocking up, that counter trade can be deadly.
Okay. Well, the pick is in. The suspense is over. Let's see where they go. Cam?
With the 64th pick of the SFL Season 16 rookie draft, the DC Dragons select John Gary, defensive end. DC's on the clock with the 65th pick.
Am I the only one confused right now?
I am confused.
Tyler, you look like you were confused. Is there
No,
anybody?
I got it.
Eagle, go ahead.
Yeah, no. I wasn't sure if he was still in the server or not, but I guess he is.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen John. He joined a few months ago, but I haven't really seen much of him recently. But yeah, so now all defensive line are gone.
I see your thinking pose, Charles. What are you thinking?
I think he's, I think from a defensive end standpoint, I think he's, he's not bad. I mean, for where he falls in the draft, he fits right in there. I mean, he's going to need a little work, a little progression, but the good thing about him is he's got his pass rush is high at 85. He's got his consistency at 70. I mean, a couple other areas he needs to work on, but from a plug and play standpoint, I said that so many times. He can jump in there and contribute right away.
Yeah, we're gonna have to make a new T-shirt for you. It's kind of like the whole "you're muted, bro" thing. You're plug and play. You're gonna have to roll with it now. Tyler, I know you looked as confused as I did. What do you think about this defensive end John Gary pick, especially when we didn't even think there were any more linemen on the board?
Yeah, when I was going through rosters and everything that we all the commentators for the SFL got, he was not on any roster that I had found. So kudos to Destro for finding a needle in a haystack and getting him on the team. So my thoughts about them having only two defensive line, I guess, were unfounded. So they have a much more stronger and they're much more prepared now in the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I agree. And I guess that answers some questions, Robert, on why they didn't take one of the defensive linemen earlier. What do you think about the pick?
Yeah, I think it's a great pick. They now have actually 3 defensive linemen. They took Exodus of Brandon and John Gary at defensive ends, and then Benny Butcher at defensive tackle. So they have a solid front now as they work on him. And the thing that interests me about John Gary, looking at him, yeah, his overall value is the worst out of the defensive ends, but 6'6", 288, a big-bodied defensive end. If you don't have a decent offensive tackle there, whether it's a generic or a player, he could cause some serious problems.
Yeah, Eddie Gage, that's a big boy on defense, and I know how you love that. What do you think about that pick?
Yes, it is.
Go ahead.
I think having him, Destro at times has run a 3-4 defense. So I'm just thinking about him and Exodus, and Exodus is a big kid too. And having him at that nose, man, if they can show up that linebacking core, he can have a nice front 7 there. Should he choose to go with a 3-4 defense?
While we're waiting for the pick to come in, let me start. I'm going to start with Charles. I'm going to ask each of you this question over the next couple of picks. Who's going to be Mr. or Mrs. Irrelevant?
Holy mackerel.
There's still a lot of rookies left.
I'm going to go. I'm like a broken record. I'm going to go with Jeff Banfield, wide receiver.
Okay. I believe I just saw that is the pick in? Maybe not. Let's go to Robert Garrett Jr. Same question. Mr. or Mrs. Irrelevant this season?
I think one that it could be is Cody Griffin out of Tacoma, 6'3", 195. The weight's not quite there, but the height is there to match up with some of the the taller receivers that are in the SFL, and I could see them going there at the end.
Okay. Eagle, what about you? Same question. Mr. or Mrs. Irrelevant for the season 16 SFL rookie draft?
I got a question, Dave.
I have an
It-
answer, Eagle.
Is Hugo still available?
Hugo is available.
So he could be
No.
Mr. Irrelevant right there.
Isn't Hugo already Mr. Irrelevant, though?
Yeah. No, I'm looking. I think it's going to be. Let me look. I'm going strong safety John Stemengo.
Strong safety. You know, another strong safety that's still on the board, and I'll ask Tyler and Eddie. The pick is actually in, so I'm going to ask you that question next round, but I'm going to throw mine out there real quick. I think Mr. Relevant will be David Leather, strong safety. So same position,
That's great.
different person. So, all right, Cam, this 65th pick is in. Who do they got?
With the 65th pick of the SFL Season 16 rookie draft, the DC Dragons select Casey Husky, outside linebacker. DC, back on the clock.
Wow. Okay. So, Tyler, first of all, I'm a little surprised Ryan Ray is the last linebacker on the board. But what do you think about the Casey Husky pick? I believe you're the one who said that both Huskies would go, right?
Yeah, so it only begs the question: are we going to see Harry Husky come off the board next as more of a family tie into all of this? I still think Ryan Ray is going to come off the board and go to DC, but I think Destro's going to try and do something with the Huskies, get them right back to back as far as picks goes, or fairly close. That way they can have their moment.
Doesn't that give DC 3 linebackers already? It does. Clint Hendershot, Riley Hughes. Yeah, so that's 3 linebackers. So unless they go 4 linebackers, Ryan Ray may not be getting drafted today. We'll see about that. Eddie Gage, what do you think?
They could go because, like I said, Destro, he likes to run that 3-4 defense. So, I mean, I don't know who their shooting caller is going to be, but if they do run that 3-4, he has a stout front to do it. I'm telling you, Exo Brandon, I've been thinking about this the past couple of minutes. If they put him at the nose, oh my God, they can have a monstrous front 7. So I'm not counting Ray out just yet.
Okay. Eagle 3-4 is what he was saying. What Eddie was just saying, which probably takes out the possibility of a 5th DB, which means we may not have another DB as Mr. Relevant after all. What do you think about this 3-4 potential system that DC might be running?
I think they have to, play the hand that they're given, right? So I think they go linebacker here. I think Ray comes in. They shore up that, to help that front 3 with that, so that's where I would be going here is with a linebacker.
Okay. Robert Garrett Jr., what do you think?
Yeah, I think, again, just like when they took their receivers back-to-back, they might just stay in the position group, but they do also still need a second corner. They have a free safety, a strong safety, and 1 corner, so that might be another position they look at.
Okay. It looks like the pick is just about in. Before I go to Cam, though, Tyler, give me who you think your Mr. or Mrs. Irrelevant will be for the season 16 rookie draft.
So I was going to say, Harry Husky would probably be that Mr. Irrelevant, but no, I think we might see a cornerback be Mr. Irrelevant. I'm thinking Gerard Brody or Josh Centeni. I'm probably leaning more toward Brody than Centeni.
Actually, Centeni is actually a good guess too. Okay, so the pick is in. We'll shoot it back to Cam, and then Eddie, I'll get to you about who you think your Mr. and Mrs. Irrelevant is. Cam?
With the 66th pick in the SFL's Season 16 rookie draft, the DC Dragons select David Leathers, cornerback. 67th pick is next to DC.
Okay, so I'm really glad to see David Leathers drafted. I had a lot of contact with him when we were talking DBs. I called for him to be Mr. Irrelevant, but apparently he snuck in a little early. Eddie Gage, what do you think?
I love the player. They're moving him from strong safety to corner, but he is a great kid. He's always in chat. He's supportive of his teammates from what I've seen watching the games. I mean, I don't have access to SFLM general chat like some others do. But from what I've seen him in the games on YouTube, he's been an active participant. He's a great kid. You know, he's always cheering on not only himself but his other teammates. I'm happy to see him get drafted.
Yeah, I agree. Charles, you had some conversations with him as well. Great kid. How do you like seeing him get drafted?
Oh, I'm psyched, man. He's a great guy. I mean, he was high on our list, and unfortunately, it didn't work out for him to come to Lone Star. But I think he's going to do well. He's going to open up some eyes on DC. And I think it was a great signing.
Awesome. Robert Garrett, was David Leathers on your draft board by any chance? Did you get a chance to speak with him at all, or do you know much about him?
I did not get to speak with him a whole lot. I am in the SFLM general chat as part of the Boise coaching staff, though, so I was able to see him around and see him interact with people. The interesting thing, I think, with this pick, though, moving him to corner, I mentioned Cody Griffin earlier, who was 6'3", but on the other side of 200. So, a pretty identical size to Cody Griffin, who I brought up earlier. The one thing I think with Leathers is, as a corner, he might struggle early in the season. His speed and agility are a little bit low, something that they're going to have to work on early for him. Okay.
Eagle, what about you? Did you have any contact with David Leathers at all?
I did a little bit, and then we decided, it just didn't work out. Our conversations were all positive. It was great. I'm happy for him. So they've got themselves a good player over there in DC. I do want to piggyback off of what Robert just said. I agree he's going to be a little slow to start. So with that pick, I feel like that they are going to add another corner to this DC Dragons with one of their last two picks.
Okay. And Eddie, let me go to you now. Get your Mr. or Mrs. Irrelevant pick for tonight.
Ryan Ray.
Ryan Ray. Okay. We're actually waiting to get this pick in. So I want to ask one more quick question of all the panel. Real fast, though. Tyler, starting with you. Who is going to be the last two picks?
His last two picks. I still like Ryan Ray. I still like him going. He's probably going to be one of the two. And then Harry Husky. They got Casey Husky. They're probably going to get Harry Husky.
Okay. Charles?
Oh, for crying out loud. I'm thinking that I'm hoping they get a wide receiver at least in the last draft, and maybe another defensive back.
Okay. Robert Garrett Jr.
Yeah, I think I agree with Tyler here. Ryan Ray, and then probably Harry Husky.
Okay. Eagle?
As much as I would love to see another wide receiver, it's going to be, I think, Ray and Stemenko.
Okay. And then wrapping this up, Eddie Gage, who do you think the last two picks of the draft will be?
Well, I picked Mr. Irrelevant and Ryan Ray.
Okay.
Not sure about the last one. I don't know, because this was made so many picks that surprised me. He's taking players with less value in which others had more, which we can touch on later. But man, I know he's probably not going to go with a fourth wide receiver, but I would love to see Michael Hammer get drafted. I love that kid.
Michael Hammer. There's some really good wide receivers still on the board. Nate Ritters, Tucker Warner, Maximus Blue, Michael Hammer. Like you said, I mean, there's just so many good wide receivers. It's kind of we had a lot of good offensive players in the SFL minor league this season. Tyler, you had the firsthand look at all of those players. What do you think about the plethora, if you will, of wide receivers that are going to be left on the board after the draft?
No, it just goes to show that the SFLM has cultivated a lot of good wide receiver talent. Not just Hammer, not just Tucker Warner. We got Ryan Roosevelt, Doug Spelling, Jeff Banfield that Charles is so keen on, and I am a little bit keen on too. But we got Kelsey Brown from Salt Lake City. Again, the talent the SFLM is producing is really going to shine in the next couple of seasons, especially since the cap has been removed for them progressing. So we're really going to see a lot of teams take a look more and more into the draft and try and bring in some of the retired players because of the quality of player that's going to come out of the minor leagues. So I'm looking forward to it. It's for a lot of these players, it's unfortunate that they don't get to be picked because there's a lot of good people that are still not going to find a home in this draft, but they'll probably find a home in the next draft. So look for, like Tucker Warner had to sit behind Riley Quintero this year. Look for him to have a fantastic season next year in the minor league and go fairly quickly in that draft. So we'll have to see how everything pans out.
Okay, awesome. The pick is in. The second to last pick of the draft goes to who, Cam?
With the 67th pick in the SFL Season 16 rookie draft, the DC Dragons select John DeSantis, cornerback. DC has the final pick of the Season 16 draft.
Okay. So a lot of us thought DB. Charles, what do you think about that?
I'm looking him up. John DeSantis, cornerback. He's actually a free safety right now, and he's going to switch over. I mean, his build's not bad. One of the things I like about him is his constitution is 75, which is good, and his coverage is 80. So I think, again, and his tackling's 85. I think you can, as a nickel or a dime corner, I think he can go in there and contribute right away.
Okay. Eddie Gage, what do you think about that?
I tell you what, and I don't know how I managed to skip over this, but we interviewed this kid, and he is, I can guarantee you, he's probably doing cartwheels in his living room right now. He's an exciting kid. He was in contact with us all the time, reminding us of how a great teammate he would be, and I know he's going to be a great teammate in DC. He's doing cartwheels right now, celebrating the fact that he's got drafted because he was getting kind of nervous, thinking his name would not get called. And there's not a more excited player in that DC locker room right now than this kid. He's a great guy.
I bet. Robert Garrett Jr.
Hey, quick shout out. Sorry, Dave, but Eddie brought up a great point to share. He was suited and booted tonight in the green room, and I think he had to cut out. But he was ready to get picked, man. So yeah, that was cool to see that as well.
Oh, that's a bummer. Do we have video on that, Cam, or anything for the future?
No, I didn't get any archive video or anything. But he was ready. I saw him. He was ready.
Okay, awesome to hear. Who was I asking? Robert Garrett Jr. was I asking you?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. Tell me what you think about this pick before we get to the last pick.
I think this is a solid pick. DeSantis is a good kid. The one thing I think about him is kind of what we said on their last pick at corner. A little bit slow to start off the season. If he's playing as the slot guy, playing maybe in the flats and a little bit of zone, he shouldn't be hurt from it too much. But if he's locked up in man-to-man with some of these receivers, it might get bad.
Okay. I know you already all gave me your Mr. or Mrs. Irrelevant choices. So let me go around real quick. Charles, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to work my way around. Actually, Eagle. Sorry, I'm going to start with Eagle. What was the big moment or the surprise moment of this entire draft for you?
That we in St. Louis got all the players we wanted.
That's always nice.
That was I would say, London getting their kicker. The most shocking pick for me would have been the second overall pick for DC, Kevin Say, at that position. They could have got him a lot later, but Kevin's a great guy, so I would say Kevin is my shocker pick of the draft.
Okay. Robert Garrett Jr.?
I don't necessarily have a person as a shocking pick, but I think my most shocking thing coming out of this draft, and we talked about it a lot earlier, is Houston with 2 linebackers headed into the season. I'm interested to see how they can do on run defense, especially. It'll be fun to watch this team and see what they can do out of it.
Okay, Charles, what about you?
I think that the fact that we've got a couple teams that are going with 2 running backs, I'm going to be interested to see how they do that. But I think from an overall, I'm going to do a Christmas wish here. It's off script here, Dave. So what the best thing to do would be with all these remaining players would say, let's expand the roster and add like one player for each team because there's going to be so many minor league players that aren't drafted.
Interesting.
And Cam's going to kill me for saying that, but
He probably is going to kill you in about a minute and a half when he comes
you know,
back
it's
on.
like a John Lennon. You know, all we are saying is give peace a chance. You know, let's let these SFL minor league players get a spot. Thank you. I'm out.
Yeah, you're welcome. You vote for Charles. Tyler, what about you? Moment of the draft? Other than yourself being number one overall, of course.
No, for those that don't know, my player is Mike Ryan. But it was an honor to go to San Diego. San Diego is a fantastic city, and there's some fantastic people in San Diego. For me, I think tonight, Charlie Boletsky going to Florida and doubling up the running backs in Florida, that is a shocker because we've seen Florida throw the ball so much and so often that Ron Cochran has led the league with interceptions. I think they're going to try and dial some things back, and I think they're going to try and get more of the running game involved and have a more balanced attack. And I think that's a definite plus for Florida. I said on the Axis show that I think Florida had to have a solid draft in order to have a chance of getting back to the playoffs. They've done very well. Florida has done very well, in my opinion, to get the people in the positions that they need to succeed.
Okay. I believe the pick is about to be in. So before I throw it back to Cam, Eddie Gage, let me get your moment or shocking moment or surprise of the season 16 rookie draft.
One of my biggest surprises was Atlanta drafting Will Todd and getting a second tight end because they kind of set the trend this season with the second tight end. Mark, he does the offense and the defense over there. And he's always been a, 5-step drop, 7-step drop quarterback, throwing the ball deep downfield. And I'm kind of interested to see what he's going to do, how he's going to adapt his playbook now on offense. It's going to look totally different next season. He just won a championship 2 seasons ago, and now he's going to totally revamp his offense and have everyone guessing. So that kind of was a big surprise. And like Tyler just pointed on, I think Florida is going to possibly move either Doyle or the running back they just drafted and make one of them a fullback.
Okay. I want to throw my surprises out there. I had actually 3 moments of the draft that were a little surprising to me before we go to Cam. Number 1 was Charles in his robe the other night. The second one was the ponytail or pigtail or whatever it was that coach had going on. I don't know what that was all about either. And the third one was, am I the only one who thought Benji Matson on opening night looked exactly like the old Axis Live logo? I'm just saying, I might have to change it to Benji Live, or I might have to market something with Benji. He might have to replace this face right here. I don't know. All right. Looks like the pick of Mr. or Mrs. Irrelevant is in. Let's shoot it back to Cam and see who that person is.
Dave, you're just mad because you can't pull off that ponytail.
I don't need to.
That was a sharp.
Bald is beautiful. Bald is beautiful.
Thing. Eddie knows bald is beautiful, doesn't he?
That's right.
No,
he got a great haircut today.
I got him on the last pick.
That would have been our secret, Cam. Come on, man.
Hey, you don't have to show anybody. I just say it.
There's no such thing as a secret amongst 7 people.
With the 68th and last pick of the SFL Season 16 rookie draft, the DC Dragons select Jeff Banfield, wide receiver. With that, 480 players are set to compete in the SFL's 16th season, which begins January 23rd. And with that, we send it back to the panel for final thoughts.
All right, Cam, thank you so much. Let me go to Charles first. Charles, was that your pick for Mr. Relevant?
All I'm going to say is Eagle and Eddie and I are going to get in a drop top and go to Vegas and put some money down on the table because we are going to be winning some money.
Apparently. Robert Garrett Jr., final thoughts.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. DC, that was their 4th wide receiver, and they also got the 2 tight ends. So Houston, in the end, not the only team thinking of doing that. It'll be interesting to see how it works. Sometimes setting up the playbooks with stuff like that can get a little bit finicky. I'm interested to see how it goes.
Did he say finicky?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Finicky.
Oh,
yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
Eagle, thoughts on this pick and overall thoughts of the draft?
No, I as a wide receiver, I want all the wide receivers to be drafted in the league, right? But it's going to be interesting. I'm going to be watching the DC games with the 2 running backs, 2 tight ends, 4 wide receivers, see how that goes. Overall, it's been a great 3 nights that we've had.
Yeah, it's been really great. Tyler Falk, the draft began with you. It almost ends with you. Of course, I got to end it with Eddie Gage. Tell me about Jeff Banfield and tell me about your thoughts overall of the season 16 rookie draft.
Yeah, Jeff Banfield deserves to get on a roster, and he gets to go to DC and play for a good owner. And we're gonna have to see how that all plays out with a lot of wide receivers. We know Destro likes to throw the ball, or at least known in the past he likes to throw the ball. So having a lot of wide receivers is definitely going to help him out with that. It's been a fantastic couple of days. All 3 nights have been amazing. All of you guys have been amazing. The fans in Twitch chat, we've had over 100 all 3 nights. It's been fantastic. Thank you everyone for coming out and supporting the players getting drafted and supporting the teams and coaches and supporting the SFL. So yeah, it's been a fantastic 3 days, and I can't wait for season 16.
Awesome. All right, Eddie Gage, you're going to have the final word tonight. Your thoughts on this Jeff Banfield pick, wide receiver to DC, and overall thoughts on this season's draft.
I was sad not to see Michael Hammer drafted, but Yogi is in a chat co-signing the signing of Jeff Banfield, and I consider him a great judge of character. So I'm gonna, bless him, with that pick. And it sounds like he made a Charles, come on, man. But yeah. So Yogi, he's involved in SFLM a lot. So I'm gonna trust his judgment of character there. He's had nothing but positive things to say about the pick, about Jeff, and about the draft overall. It's fun. It's to me, it's the most exciting part of the off season. That along with free agency, it's always good to see where these guys go. It's just a wonderful experience, and now it's time for us as coaches to get in these playbooks and get these playbooks right, because the very first one you submit, particularly on offense, is the most important. So all the work is done for that the fans see, but us as coaches, the job is not done. We got to get that first week 1 playbook is the most important. And Charles, we got.
Oh, I knew we had a baby. I knew I saw a baby somewhere.
We got work to do, and I thought my book was about 90% done, and then I started tweaking things, and now I'm I got some more work to do. But yeah. I loved it. The entire presentation, the graphics that Cam continues to put out. He continues to press that envelope and make this thing a better experience every season. I mean, every time I think he just can't get any better, with these playoffs and the draft and free agency, he finds a way to push that envelope and give us an even better product. So shout out to him. And yes, it's a fun experience, and I can't wait to the next one.
Awesome. Well, thank you to all of you tonight for being on the panel. Thank you to Eddie Gage, Tyler Falk, Charles Doherty, and Baby, Robert Garrett Jr., Eagle Mondavi. Special shout outs to Chris Curtis and Eric Venison for hosting the first and second round. Obviously, shout outs to Cam for doing this insane, incredible, humongous production that he does for 3 nights. For all of you listening, thank you for tuning in. Thanks for being interactive in the chat. We'll see you tomorrow night, actually, on the post-draft show on Access Live, 9 p.m. Eastern. And with that being said, I'm going to say see you at the tees, but Eddie Gage is going to say what?
Arizona, I love y'all.
Lone Star!
I love y'all. Yo, Bernard, Max Knight. I got the guys I wanted. Those guys pumped.
No, he didn't
Yo,
get
we
the
gonna
last-
do
he
this
did not
thing.
get the last shout
We
out.
gonna
I'm
get
sorry.
Arizona to play it out.
Wrong
You
star.
know what they
Oh, here we go.
Oh.
This is what happens when I turn the show over to the Insane Asylum, I guess. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's a wrap for the Season 16 SFL Rookie Draft. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow night at the Tees.